That's a little Christos right there. Some good music, and we have some great conversation coming up for you on this segment of Views and Vibes. Moving into the whole promotions piece, as musicians, how important is performing to promoting your product?
It's important. That's for sure.
It's important, but unfortunately, it's becoming less important.
You're right, actually. I agree.
I think so? I'll tell you the reason why. I'm from New York, and one of the main reasons why I moved to D.C. is because I love live music, you know, and at the time I was living in Albany, you know, upstate, and there was nothing going on. You know, you would not see, you know, maybe a couple bands would come there every now and then, but in terms of independent music and musicians who weren't getting a lot of play, they weren't coming to Albany. You know, so I would come down here, my mother lives here, I would come down and visit her, and I would always catch some live music. And there were some artists that I would always miss, like some independent artists like Eric Roberson, Julie Dexter, you know, these artists who, you know, would come to D.C. all the time, but I'm in Albany. So when I came down here, the first thing I did was find the location where everybody's going to be and make sure that I got to see these live musicians, you know. So for them, you know, they drew me in that way. They drew me in with the live music. And you're saying that it's kind of dying down now?
Well, it's that live performance is really important. It's important to us. We love it, and the people, the music lovers, really love it, and they really want to see it. But you know, you can't always get to every single spot. You know, I used to do a lot of performing in Europe, and you know, sometimes that opened things up, sometimes it didn't. You can do a webcast. You can, you know, you can do all sorts of things that would still get your live presence. You do things on YouTube that can get your live presence out there a little bit more. But I mean, live performance for me, I mean, that's just the fun part.
Now, Drea, you work in radio, you know, and you host a soul show. Do you have a lot of independent artists who, you know, musicians who actually, you know, music you do play on your show? And also, where's commercial radio, you know, when it comes to independent music?
Yes. First answer is yes. Pretty much everybody that I have on there are independent artists. True indeed, we've had the Dwellers and the Raphael Sadiqs. But for the most part, it's a lot of artists that people have never heard of. You know, be it they're local or just be it they're from, you know, other parts of the world that we just happen to know about, you know.
How do you find them? Because when we first met, you know, that's what drew me into our conversation, was the fact that I'm thinking I'm a music connoisseur. You know, I'm thinking I know, you know, all the independent artists. You know, I'm naming people like Alison, Crockett, you know, and you started hitting me with names I never heard of before. How do you actually find these different musicians? Because
I host so many shows, and I meet so many other independent artists. So that's actually a great way to network and to actually get, you know, to give people a chance. Aside from doing the show that we have, we're podcasted. So we're in 6 different continents, to be honest with you. So it's just not being heard here. It's everywhere. So this is this person that lives maybe in D.C. It's opportunity to actually get out there. The 22nd of this month, we're hosting a brother by the name of Terrence Cunningham. Incredible. Really? Incredible. Nobody knows who he is, though. And that's the sad part. But that's the reason why I'm glad we got shows like mine, because these people here that are so awesome and that are so incredible, that don't get the airplay in mainstream radio, that insist on playing the same 10 to 12 artists all day, every day, and it's not giving it a balance. That's a huge problem to me. You know, it's not to degrade what they're doing, but you got it right down here, and it needs to be here. There's nothing. You're not giving anybody anything, nothing new. You know. And the music that we have and the music that I play is way bigger than just a song or two a day, you know?
But where is commercial radio? I mean, I've been listening to Alison now I actually came across your music listening to a compilation CD called Midnight Soul, and this is back in '04. And there were a bunch of artists on there I had never heard before. Alison was one of them, and I'm like, this is fantastic music. You know, why is this not getting radio play? Christos, I just became more familiar with your music more recently, and once again, absolutely wonderful music. The quality is fantastic, the lyrics are strong, the music behind it are fantastic, but once again, you're not hearing this music on the radio. Why is that? Why
is that? Be out of touch. The power, we just had this discussion right before we got on camera. The powers that be are completely and utterly out of touch. You got suits sitting in their offices, you know, dictating maybe I want another Chris Brown or I want another Beyonce.
But they're losing money. They're losing money left and right.
I know that. You and I totally get that. But, you know, the whole sense of being an original artist is completely gone. That's just gone, and you can tell by every time you turn on your radio, you just want to turn it right back off, because you know, not only do you have this person and this person sound like Lil Wayne, now you got this chick that wants to be Lil Wayne too. Right. So there is no originality, and there's everything is just kind of pretty much a cookie cutter type business. That's not real music to me. Right. You know, it's just not. And then when you have people that are sitting in there with the suits and ties on, I mean, you know, that's pretty much the whole gist of it. Yeah. That's completely out of touch. That's the
business,
problem.
And that's different from creativity.
That's the
you know,
problem.
One of the things that really disturbs me with you know, current status of music is, you know, seeing so many artists that sound the same. Right. You know, I mean, you've got a whole genre of music where there's not even, or I should say, whole genres of music that there's not one artist that really stands out that dramatically from another. You know, and certain radio is a great example. You turn it on, and you're not really going to hear anything that different. You know, I'm a product of the '60s and grew up in the '70s, where there was so much phenomenal artistry, and people put a lot of the homework and time they put into their craft and was different. It was sitting and playing an instrument. Right. We didn't have a lot of the technology that we have today. You know what I mean? Really. And I think that some of the advances in technology have really made artificial forms of music. Right.
I agree.
You know, that synthetic. And you know, I'm really a big fan of, you know, what comes from a person's soul. Right. You know what I mean?
Well, speaking from somebody who does kind of synthetic music sometimes, in terms of
but you're actually
to a degree.
But actually,
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
But you know, but in terms of, I did a lot of electronica and house music and dance music, which comes, you know, which came out of that electronica movement. Right. You know, but a lot of those people were also musicians at the same time.
True. Who were behind the boards, right?
But I just really want to speak to this. Understand that that each one of those pieces of music that you hear on the radio is a 4-minute or 3-minute commercial.
Yeah, really.
And so therefore, if you're going to bring on commercials onto your radio station, they cost money to put on that radio station. And we're only going to run so many commercials per hour. Right. So therefore, you know, if you have the record company who pays the independent promoter, who pays the record label, who pays the radio station with tickets or performances or all these other things, there's only the record company has the money, or the management or whatever has the money to put that on the radio station. So therefore, you know, the independent artist has us. Yeah. You know, and so we don't have a corporation behind us in order to help us to do some of these things.
And, you know, I want to talk about that when we get back. I want to talk about the promoting of independent musicians, you know, what you have to do, what you have to go through when we come back from the break right after this.